It feels very strange to be sitting down and talking about myself, but I asked you if you wanted a Q&A, and I was so surprised at how many of you actually left me questions. So finally, after 2 years of being on YouTube, I'm finally doing a Q&A. If you don't know who I am, I'm Hannah and I am the head of the Horde here on this channel, and I talk about horror movies usually on Mondays and Fridays. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, maybe hit that subscribe button, or if you like the answers to my Q&A, maybe even like the video at the end, because it does massively help me out as a small creator. But of course, being a horror channel, I'm going to start off with all of your burning horror questions, which I have prepped right here on my phone. All questions, whoever asks them, will be kept anonymous because I don't know who is comfortable with me telling their usernames out and about in public. So yeah, all people who have asked questions will be kept anonymous, but keep an eye out if you did ask a question because I'm going to try and answer as many of them as I possibly can.
You ready, kids?
So we're going to start with a really straightforward question, which is, what got you into watching horror movies and what were some of the gateway horror movies? Now, being a 90s kid, there were so many weird TV shows that I grew up with. We're talking Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Round the Twist, The Queen's Nose had some really weird and creepy episodes. Like, there was so much like TV aimed at kids here in the UK that had a creepy horror theme to it. If you have never heard of Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids, like, that show is sinister, and I grew up watching that show. So horror has always been a part of my life, I want to say. But when I was really, really little, my grandma let me watch Gremlins. My grandma loved the movie Gremlins, did not realise that it was a horror movie. So Gremlins is absolutely the gateway movie for me into exploring more of the horror genre. Am I into Hammer horror films? Now, this one, I honestly don't know that much about Hammer horror films. Like, I know who they are. I know that they are pioneers from like the 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s, but I really haven't seen much horror from that particular time period. I've seen the classics, I've seen things from like the Universal Monsters, but I haven't really seen that much to my knowledge from the Hammer horror films. So I can't really say that I'm a fan, but I also can't say that I'm not a fan. It's just I haven't seen enough to say which way I fall on this. What do you think is the scariest horror movie you have ever seen? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I've ever admitted there's certain things that I am scared of, and of course I have fears and phobias. Everybody's got fears and phobias. So what I think is possibly the scariest thing that's ever been made might not be somebody else's. Like, the movie that comes to mind, I don't think it's the scariest movie that I've ever seen, but it's the movie that I think affected me the most, would be the movie The Collector, which I think is from around 2009. I can never rewatch that movie again. It like messed with me so bad. But is it the scariest movie that I've ever seen? No, but it's just, like I said, it's the one that messed me up the most that I can think of off the top of my head. What do I think is the best LGBTQ horror movie? If you don't know, I watch a lot of queer horror movies, being a queer lady myself. This is a difficult one. I've got a few favorites. Like, I think a lot of people would say things like Jennifer's Body. I have to give shout outs to Slay. Summoning Sylvia is great. What Keeps You Alive is great. To an extent, The Hunger from the 70s, starring David Bowie and Susan Sarandon, I think it is. Like, that's a very queer horror movie. It's a very spicy queer horror movie. But there's certainly lots of picks out there. Let me know if you want a list of queer horror movies in June for Pride Month. Like, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to compile a list of like recommendations just of queer horror. What horror movie do I think represents me? If you are familiar with my channel, this should probably not come as a surprise to you, but I have to go with Gothic Elite Battle Bear. It is pink craziness. It's insane. My boy Noboru Waguchi, he's my favorite director. Like, there's no way of describing, like, that is my favorite director. He does the most insane Japanese action horror comedies, and Gothic Elite Battle Bear is one of my favorite movies of all time because it is just insane. Like, you watch it, it's zombies, it's pink superheroes, they're kaiju at one point, there's fighting stuffed teddy bears. Something that I've probably not shared about myself before is like, my room is like a mash of like bright pink, bright orange, lime green, baby blue, yellow, and then checkerboard. Like, that's my life. Gothic Elite Battle Bear is like the perfect representation of everything you need to know about me in one movie. Gasp! What made you decide you liked horror? I remember watching The Birds as a kid, and I think that that was a turning point for me. I also saw The Day of the Triffids and The Body Snatchers, and I'm now a horror fan. For me, Gremlins, absolutely Gremlins. What else can I think of? I liked Ghost Ship. Ghost Ship's a movie that's kind of grown up with me. The Mummy. I know that some people think The Mummy's not a horror movie. Like, go back and rewatch it, because there is definitely, like, it's an action-adventure movie first, and then it is absolutely a horror movie. Like, a man gets his face sucked off in that movie. Like, that movie is wild. So they're the three that immediately come to mind. But like I said, I grew up with a lot of like weird kids shows from the 90s. So horror has always kind of been a part of my life in some way or another. Asian horror, who does it better? Japan, Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, all these countries bring a different style. Now, if you don't know, I watch a lot of Asian horror movies, but my heart belongs to Japanese horror movies. I also really like Korean movies, but I think it really is a personal taste thing. If you like the sort of really polished side of Asian horror, you would pick like Korean movies. If you like the sort of lower budget that would never get made anywhere else in the world because they're just so off the wall, Japan is probably for you. Thailand has some really great folklore stuff, same with Indonesia, but for me personally, I have to go with Japan on this because that's my own personal taste. This comes from somebody who's clearly watching my older videos. Have I rewatched The Descent, and has my opinion changed on it at all? And the honest answer to that is no, I haven't rewatched The Descent, and I would still give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, simply because now it's kind of a tainted movie. The person that recommended that I watch it is no longer in my life and is a massive walking red flag. So I kind of feel like if I am going to watch The Descent again, it needs to be way further down the line so I can kind of like unassociate the fact that this movie goes with that person. So no, I haven't rewatched The Descent. No. This one kind of links into my love of anime as well, but I was asked, I love anime horror fantasy movies like Perfect Blue and Paprika. Would you consider doing a review of one of these? Now, I have seen both of those two movies. Perfect Blue, I think everybody should go and watch Perfect Blue. But I do have another anime movie that's on my list, and that is Geo the Tokyo Fish Attack, which is a Junji Ito like adaptation. So if you want me to do an anime movie, like, let me know in the comments, because I will watch the movie about the fish attack, because that is, it's wild. This is a multi-parter. This is if a movie studio gave you a boatload's worth of money, estimated shy of $100 million, and total creative freedom, what top 7 movies with only 1 or 2 entries would you reboot or remake, and which directors and screenwriters would you hire? Now, besides Stepford Wives, I don't like remakes of things. I think that you kind of lose something when you remake something that takes away from the original. I know it's a bold statement to make. It's how I feel about Asian to Western remakes. You always lose something in the translation. And yeah, I don't think there's anything that I would personally choose to remake. It would be different, for example, if a creative team and a director came along and were like, we made the original, but we would now like to do it with a bigger budget. Think something like the Last Shift, because that got remade as Malum. Same scriptwriter, same director and everything. Like, I love that idea, but I'm just genuinely not a big fan of remakes. I got a question asking me to name some of my favourite non-horror movies, and this entire bookshelf behind me, if it wasn't kind of obvious, besides the top 2 shelves, is entirely horror movies, because that's the majority of what I watch. But you will absolutely notice a theme in the movies that I'm about to name off, because some of my favourite non-horror movies would be things like Little Miss Sunshine, which is one of my favourite movies of all time, Legally Blonde, Miss Congeniality, Be Kind, Rewind, Sydney White. The House Bunny is one of my like go-to movies where I just want to giggle because that movie is brilliant. Stepford Wives is probably one of my most quoted movies of all time. Like, I can't hear somebody make a train noise or hear a train noise without wanting to do the clairobic scene, because Glenn Close is like perfection in that film. Like, they're the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And you can probably see I really like movies from the late 2000s to 2012, we'll say. I'll throw in Penelope as well. I really like that movie. It's got a really stacked cast. If you've never seen Penelope, it's Christina Ricci, Richard E. Grant, Catherine O'Hara, Reese Witherspoon, James McAvoy, like a big cast. If you like whimsical movies, watch Penelope.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
A few questions regarding my taste in music, starting with what would be my top 11 favourite movie/TV show soundtracks. So I'm not going to do 11 because I think I would be here for a while just trying to come up with 11. But ones that come to mind would be the Lord of the Rings soundtracks, like just the piece of music from The Shire is one of the most like beautiful, relaxing pieces of music that I can think of. The Monsters, Inc. soundtrack, same with the Incredibles soundtrack. Those two, I can hear the theme musics for those and they will just get stuck in my head. Like, absolutely those two. What else can I think of? Pushing Daisies is one of my favourite TV shows of all time, along with Alice in Borderlands. And I love its like slightly creepy, whimsical soundtrack that goes along with it. Like, this would take me far too long, so we're gonna go with those for now. I couldn't help but notice you describing in depth about a theremin in your spoiler-free review for Dead Male. Do I play any instruments? If so, which ones? And if you don't, which instruments would you want to learn to play? I don't actually play any instruments. I think my mum plays about 5-6 different things. Well, she used to, but she has osteo and rheumatoid arthritis in her hands, so she can't play them anymore. But no, the musical gene didn't actually pass on to me, and I don't actually play anything. But I am actually attracted to people that do play music because it's a skill that I don't have.
I gotta hear you over my theremin.
A few of you actually asked about my tattoos. So rather than me like bending my arms and legs in strange positions trying to get everything in camera, I will actually include little clips of my tattoos, but we'll do a full tattoo tour for you. The first tattoo that I actually got is the one that I would like removed. It is my Harry Potter tattoo and it is on my right forearm. Like, this tattoo, as much as I liked it when I first got it, this was before the person associated with this franchise was incredibly problematic. So at some point, I am gonna get this one removed, but I would like to be in a position where I can afford to have it removed and then immediately go and get what I would actually like put in its place. And I want the Phantom Thieves masks from Persona 5, which is my favourite video game of all time, along with the game Dark Chronicle. So hopefully, sometime in the future, this one will be gone. The second tattoo that I got is actually my Peep Show girl, who is on the back of my left arm, which you would never know was actually there on camera, but she's one of my favourites. She was done by Lucy Blue. Yeah, she's one of my favourites. I just love her. Like, this super curvy girly and neon lights in like an 80s aesthetic. Like, she was a flash piece that was drawn up and I never thought that I would actually get her, but when I inquired, the other one, she's part of a pair. The other one had already been booked in, so I am so fortunate that I actually managed to get this one because, yeah, she's one of my favourites. My third tattoo is my PlayStation controller, which is again on my left arm. I have been a massive gamer since I was a kid. I was 7 years old when I first started playing PlayStation 1. I grew up with things like Croc Legend of the Gobbos. I played every single Rugrats game. Like, Rugrats is the thing that I would use to like sum up my entire childhood. I love Rugrats so much. I love Spyro the Dragon, so I still play now. Like, I am an avid platinum trophy hunter. I have 183 platinum trophies, which to some of you will mean absolutely nothing, but to some of you will be quite impressive. So I had to at some point get something to do with PlayStation. So I have the controller, and some of the little stars on it are actually Pawpaw fruit from the game Kingdom Hearts. So you have to look carefully because some of the little stars actually have stems on them. The fourth tattoo that I got is my thigh piece. This one goes from my hip bone down to my knee joint. And this is my Borderlands the pre-sequel tattoo. Again, another one of my favourite video games of all time. And I have Athena and I have Claptrap tattooed on the outside of my leg. It's like, this was a 2-sitting job. And it was actually one of the cheaper tattoos that I got done. The guy that did it, Tom Ruki, he's the only guy that has ever tattooed me. Every single one of my other tattoos have been done by women. He was doing a deal where he wanted to like expand his portfolio by doing newer and bigger tattoos. So I agreed, and my entire thigh piece cost me about 200 quid. My fifth tattoo was my pumpkin tea set, and this is on the inside of my right arm. And my mum actually paid for this one for me as a gift. Now, my mum is not a tattoo girly in any kind of way. And when I was a kid, she was very much of the like, if you get a tattoo the second you turn 18, whatever limit is on, I will chop it off. And for a while, being a kid, I didn't know if she was actually being serious about this, which meant that I didn't actually start getting tattooed until I was in my 20s. And my mum, she loves my tattoos on me. They've made me a much happier person, which is probably why she agreed to pay for this one in the first place. But the fifth one was my tattoo tea set. I got this one done by Amy Bray, and she's another person like Lucy Blue who I would like more tattoos from in the future. I love her style. She does love nature tattoos. So that was my fifth one. My sixth tattoo is my formaldehyde jar with the skull roses in it, and this was the third piece that I got that was a flash piece, along with my tea set, which was another pre-drawn piece that I didn't think that I would be able to get. Same with my Peep Show girly, didn't think I'd get her. And when I saw that they had this like jar with the skull roses in it, I just fell completely in love with it. And when I went to get this one done, Leah, who did it, was like, so what colours do you want to do it? And I was like, can we do it green? Because I love the idea of these like skull roses growing in like really pungent chemicals. So that's why it's green. I also have a huge fascination with forensic science. I would have loved to have been a forensic pathologist, but unfortunately I had a garbage science teacher in high school, which absolutely ruined any chances that I had of going to college and actually studying chemistry and biology, so that ended that. But I am still a massive forensic science girly to this day, so that is the story behind my my skull roses. My seventh tattoo is my witch girl, who is not wearing very much besides her underwear and a pair of socks and a big hat, and I kind of love this about her. She, again, was a flash piece that was drawn up by an artist that I love called Jess, and she is one of 4 different spooky witch girlies that are like a little bit suggestive. And when I went to get her done, Jess was like, well, we have to make her a redhead because we have to make her a redhead. So that's why she's a redhead. She's called Spoop because I had to give her a name as well. And she's kind of like spoopy cute, hence why she's called Spoop. And I love her. She needs touching up though, because unfortunately her socks are on an area that has like a lot of movement to it. So at some point in the future, I would like to get this one a little bit touched up, but that is the origin of my spooky witch girl. Tattoos 8, 9 and 10 were all done at the same time, so I'll start with the biggest one, which is my Firewatch tattoo. I'm of the belief that sometimes you play something, read something or watch something at the exact moment in your life when you need it most. And that is what happened when I played Firewatch. Like, to me, that game came along at the exact time when I needed it, and its story, it still lives with me today. So I have a big piece of the game art tattooed on my arm, and it's got a few little hidden references. It's got the walkie-talkies where you spend the whole game talking to Delilah. Like, the game means a lot to me, so I now carry it proudly, like, facing forward and like on my arm. And tattoos 9 and 10 are actually from a tabletop game, which I was a big player of back in the day, which is Malifaux. If you've never heard of Malifaux or its spin-off Through the Breach, which is a tabletop RPG, go and look into Malifaux because it is steampunk, cosmic horror, like there's so much going on in Malifaux that I think a lot of people will really enjoy. There are multiple different factions, and I actually have 2 factions wax seals tattooed on me, and they are the Arcanists, who are my main faction because magic and machinery combined together does some chaos make, and the other one is the Resurrectionists, who are over in Malifaux raising the dead for fun and making strange and bizarre weird creatures. Like Dr. McMorning is my favourite of the Resurrectionists. I think he's now changed allegiances going forward into version 3 of the game. But my favourite of the Arcanists is absolutely Cassandra, who runs the Starlight Lounge. Like, She's just out here causing chaos and being all like queer and girly with like the other ladies that she works with. Like, she is absolutely my favourite in the whole of Malifaux.
Well, tour's over.
We'll do some of the miscellaneous questions that I got next, which is things like, do I prefer tea or coffee? And the answer to that is coffee, which possibly makes me a bad Brit, but I do not like black tea in the like English breakfast tea and me are not friends in any kind of way. I like a mint tea, I like a herbal tea, but I'm really not a fan of black tea. So yeah, coffee all of the way.
This is treason.
Was I popular in school? No, but I wasn't one of the unpopular kids either. I'm not sure if I've got any photos, but I'll try and insert one if I was. I was the fat kid in high school. I was like, in England we have two schools that we go to, which is primary school and secondary school. Primary school is like 3 through 10 and secondary school is 11 through 16. Now, primary school I just sort of coasted. I was like, I wasn't unpopular and I wasn't popular either, and I was bullied quite a lot. So we'll leave that as that. And in high school, like I said, I was the fat kid and all of my friends were guys, which was interesting. Yes, it just meant that nobody could really pick on me in high school. I did have a bully though, and I accidentally, we'll say accidentally, but it kind of wasn't. She picked a fight with me in the corridor and punched her and knocked out her front teeth. So let's just say she left me alone for the final year in school for that. So no, I wasn't popular, but I also wasn't unpopular. I was just one of those kids that coasted. Have I considered doing this full time? I think a lot of us that do YouTube, you have to actually enjoy doing YouTube because let's just say, unless you've got over a certain amount of subscribers, you can't really make a steady income from this. I think most people, when they hit around 32,000 subscribers, you're a little bit more secure at that point. So yes, you could turn this potentially into a full-time career. But I also have no shame in talking about my financials from, let's just talk last month here on YouTube, because I've currently got them up on my screen. I got, in the last 28 days, 455 hours worth of view time from people. And that earns me an estimated revenue of £15.98. Which I can't withdraw at the moment because you have to have a minimum of £60 on YouTube to withdraw it. So I don't get monthly payouts here on YouTube. I would like to get to a point where I was getting monthly payouts. I think everybody would like to get to a point where they're getting monthly payouts. But let's just say I earned more from the 6 people that support me on Patreon than than 450 hours of watch time here on YouTube in this month, which is a little bit crazy to say.
Money, 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 money.
Someone clearly knows my taste in wrestling with this next one, which is, if you had to become a wrestler, what kind of gimmick would you have gone for and what would your name be? I'm a fan of wrestlers who just come out and be like themselves, but like really amplified version of themselves. I think somebody like Shotzi, who is unfortunately not renewing her contract in WWE, so wish her the best in whatever she's going on to do. But Shotzi's just Shotzi, with the volume turned up in the ring, and I can really appreciate that. So if we're going for something like that, I would be like a late 90s, early 2000s nightmare, and I would probably come out to something like Simple Plan or Blink-182 or Green Day. Think like Lita's kind of gear as well, like low-rise pants, crop top, that kind of, yeah, we'll go with that. No idea what my name would be, but that's the sort of gimmick that I would have probably gone for. Are we going to see any more cameos of Bug? Now, I know that some of you may not even know who Bug is, so, bear with me.
12 seconds later.
Excuse the very strange angle for the moment, but this is Bug. This is my 8-year-old French bulldog, who is my little fur baby, who occasionally you may hear in cameos when she falls asleep on the floor. But yeah, this is my fur baby. Do you love Mum? No, not right now because you're tired and hungry. She had a bath today, so that's why she's tired. So I'm gonna go and set her free. But if you didn't know, this is my fur baby.
24 hours later.
It feels very strange sitting here on camera with no makeup on and my glasses because this is certainly a first. But there was one more question that I actually got a couple of times, and I didn't know whether I was going to answer this one or not, because it involves how I'm doing 6 months after my breakup. And I decided to think about it, hence why I'm back 24 hours later, and I've decided I'm actually going to answer this question because I'm sure that there are probably a few more of you out there that would like to know the answer to this question, but, you know, possibly thought that it was maybe a little bit too personal to ask. So, if you're not interested in this, feel free to, like, skip forward. I'll leave a timestamp, but we're going to talk how I'm doing after my breakup. The short answer is, I'm doing good, and thank you for asking. The long answer is, if I allow myself to think about everything that happened during that relationship, I am still angry. And if I sat here and reeled off absolutely everything that was a red flag during that relationship, I think a lot of people would think that my anger was also justified. But I'm not about to sit here and do that because, as far as I'm concerned, she no longer deserves any more of my time and energy, and I'm not the sort of person that gets any kind of enjoyment in sitting down and airing out my drama for the internet. Like, that has never been me, and it's never gonna be me. Now, I realise that I am much better outside of that relationship because when you love someone, you are prepared to overlook multiple red flags. And now that I am out of this, I am glaringly aware of how many red flags there were, and all I can do is learn from this experience and grow going forward. Like, she made her choice, and that is a choice that she now has to live with, and I now choose to pay her no mind because she no longer matters. Like, my life is so much better. My anxiety has, like, my general anxiety has nearly disappeared. Like, the polar opposites from 6 months ago, and thriving really is the simplest and purest version of revenge. I'm enjoying the hobbies that I stopped doing because she wasn't interested in them, or she thought that they were kind of a waste of time. I'm wearing the clothes that I want to wear again, rather than the things that she would compliment me in wearing, or suggest that I should wear like this kind of style instead. And I'm not biting my tongue or like holding back my personality anymore because I am not trying to keep the peace with somebody who thrives in drama and chaos, which is absolutely not how my brain works. Like, I recently bought a colouring book, which may sound like a rather strange statement, but I'll explain why. Because that would have been questioned 6 months ago, why I'd bought a colouring book, but I've never talked about this. When I first travelled to the US, I got whiplash from travelling on an aeroplane. Like, the flight from where I live in the UK to Ireland, we were delayed. The pilot hit the runway with such force, so many people, I guarantee, had got whiplash from that flight. I didn't have time to recover from the whiplash. I flew to the US. I then flew back 2 weeks later, and since then, I have had long-term whiplash, and it means that I get regular headaches, I get brain fog, I get neck and shoulder pain from it, and like, I just needed a hobby that doesn't require any screen time for days where I can't concentrate on anything for a long period of time. It's why I think my movie watching numbers have gone down a bit this year, because there are some days where I have the concentration levels of a goldfish. Like, you add into this, like, I have PCOS and various food intolerances, and like, I'm playing Russian roulette every day just to find out like where my fatigue levels are gonna be that day. I'm watching anime again. I am listening to audiobooks again. I'm reading more. Like, the things that I stopped doing for a person that made me happy, I've put them back into my life. They're just the little things that spark some kind of joy in me. I recently spent an entire day watching Disney movies with my mum, and like, it's little things like that that I missed, but I didn't realise that I missed them until I started doing them again. 6 months ago, Hordes was sad, and she didn't know how to vocalise this, and I sort of hid behind the Hordes persona. And here I am 6 months later, and while I still go by Hordes online, most of you now know me as Hannah as well, and I don't feel like I'm hiding behind the persona anymore because I'm actually comfortable in showing off who I actually am as a person. And if you guys didn't like who I was as a person, you wouldn't follow me, you wouldn't subscribe to me, you wouldn't comment in the comments and have regular interactions and conversations with me. So it's shown me that I can actually be myself on my channel and not hide behind a persona. Like, the past 6 months have been crazy in the amount of personal growth that I've had, and having my channel has been an incredibly healing thing. I don't see dating in any type of like my near future. I'm happy being single and just, you know, continuing on my journey of like healing and eventually maybe not feeling so angry about everything that happened.
Boobs up and out.
So we'll end on a positive note because I asked my mum, like, what is something about me that I don't think people would necessarily know? And my mum's response to that was, show the Bernards. And if you want to know how like quirky and weird my personality is off of YouTube, this should probably explain to you. So just to add a little bit of context, I am that girly that likes going to TK Maxx and finding things that nobody else is going to purchase, but absolutely fit my aesthetic. And at the start of the year, when I was going through my transformation and returning back to my former self, like I was going into my Pokemon evolution stage 3, we'll say, I'm now in my Charizard phase, it started with one garden gnome. This is Bernard, who was then joined a couple of months later by Big Bernard, who was then joined by Bernardo. So at the moment, meet the Bernards, and there's an orange one out there as well, and I'm absolutely going to find him because in my head I envision them as some kind of like barbershop quartet, with Big Bernard obviously being the bassy like tenor of the group. They're available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, anything that quinceañeras, they're available for those as well. Like, I just like to imagine them as like the gnome version of a barbershop quartet. Would anybody know that I have three identical garden gnomes? Probably not, but there you go. So there you have it, all of the questions that I was sent for my Q&A, and if you have any more things that you want to know, drop them in the comments and I will try and answer as many of them as possible. There are a few that were like very similar to each other, so I tried to just like combine the two into one. So yeah, I'm gonna stop babbling about myself now because yeah, it's embarrassing talking about myself because I'm so not used to doing it. So very quickly, you can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I post all the horror movies that I watch. So let's talk about what we're going to watch on Monday instead, because I don't know if I'm ready for this one yet, but we're throwing it out there. Back when I talked about the 6 movies that I wanted to prioritize for spring, I threw in 2001 Maniacs, and there's a lot of Confederate flags in this film. It feels very like South Park though, you know, like how absolutely everybody is going to get a ribbing. So yeah, we're going to go for it. We're diving into it. We're doing 2001 Maniacs, yeah, with Robert Englund and Lin Shaye. So be prepared for the wild ride that is that one. So until next time, bye. An extra special thank you though to my regenerators here within the Horde for their support over on Patreon.